thank Cheru and Sabode, who really planned everything. All I did was say I wanted to have a party. And this is it. And it's not over. When Matt got born, I gave his mom a little ornament for a charm bracelet, and it was a little acorn. And the symbolism of that, of course, was that someday he'd grow into a mighty oak, and as you've seen from the slides, he's kind of there. Now, one of the things about acorn, if you can picture it, it's got a round bottom and there's a little cap on top. And for some reason, when Matt was a child, he had this fascination with caps. And you saw one of those pictures with him with a coonskin cap on. And I have to admit, when I was a child, I had a coonskin cap too. So it may be genetic. But he kept this fascination. And beyond coonskin caps, he graduated to seem to like straw hats, and every time Matt comes up to Canada to go fishing with me, he delves into the closet and puts on one of these straw hats. When he was 4 years old, it was pretty comical because the hat came down over his face. Now he has a hard time finding one that fits. He got over that. And for about 4 or 5 years, we thought his head was some type of red corduroy because he had this San Francisco 49ers cap on forever. And the only way he seemed to be able to get rid of that was to shave his head. And so now he seems to alternate between shaved heads and some type of head covering like a cap. As you've seen from some of the pictures, he's always had kind of a daredevil streak in him. And in talking about it on my side of the family, we are sure this is from the Rowland side of the family. You can tell by the response, they agree. His uncles used to fascinate their parents with all sorts of feats and undertakings that petrified them. They could only laugh about them later after they'd been reprimanded severely. This showed up in Matt when he was about 4 years old. I was painting the house and went in to the garage to get a piece of sandpaper or something, and when I came back, here was Matt, halfway up the ladder and almost on the roof. And that was just the beginning. Beyond that, he's gone into rock climbing. You've seen some examples of that. His mother and I just kind of said, no, you really don't need to do that. But I think he's even convinced Anita that maybe this is something that's exciting. I don't know how many of you do that, but I kind of like to have my feet firmly planted on the ground or at least on the rung of a ladder. As part of this daredevil stuff, and again, I'm convinced it comes from my wife's side of the family, there's been a fascination with speed. One of Matt's great-great-grandfathers got into a race with a train. He was in a horse and buggy, and they raced to the crossing. It was a tie, but ultimately it was proven that the train won because they met. Well, this didn't seem to affect the genes too much because Matt was always fascinated in having the fastest sled, the fastest bike. Skis, that was fine when he was 6 and 7 years old, and I'd been skiing for 20 years. And when he got to be about 18, it became a real struggle to keep up with him on skis. He always wanted to do the blacks, double blacks, that I kind of would do. Okay, is that smooth? Nothing wrote. So I don't think I want to do that. My skiing career ended when we were skiing one day and we'd raced down a mountain, and at the last minute I caught an edge. And I could tell I was going to fall, and so I said, well, I'll just gracefully ease into this. Well, I eased into the side of the hill, very graceful fall, and slid about 200 yards down the mountain. Snow accumulated under my jacket. I got up and kind of took the jacket off and shook it out and looked around to see if anybody was looking. There were applauses from people riding the chairlift. I decided that Matt was faster than me, he was better than me, and it was time to stop skiing. It's been very adventuresome. It shows up a little bit in some of the anecdotes I've already talked about, but one of the more interesting to me was during high school he met a number of exchange students from Brazil and became very close friends with them. And in the middle of his senior year, he was growing a little bit tired of studying and thought maybe he should go visit his friends in Brazil and take a month off in the middle of his senior year. And I said, well, I don't think the school system is going to allow you to do this. But if you have the money and you can get clearance, you can do that. Well, he wrote a letter, and I came home from work one day and Kathy said, oh, you wouldn't believe it, the principal called. I said, what happened? Oh, the principal called about the letter that Matt wrote. I said, he wrote a letter? He said, yes, the principal said it was the best idea, the best proposition he'd ever read, that Matt should go to Brazil and study the culture. And he went for a month, and it was okay as long as he wrote a paper about it when he got back. Now, I don't think the paper matches any of the pictures I have seen, or any of the stories I've heard, and unless it was night school, because I know they didn't get up before noon, and all I heard was that, yeah, well, you know, life in Brazil really doesn't start until around 10 or 11 p.m. when you start to go to the clubs. As part of Matt's life, I've kind of boiled it down in the end to what I call the 3 P's. One's been perseverance. And one little example of that was we had a dog, and I trained the dog. Kathy, Sarah, and Matt untrained the dog while I was at work. And it got to the point where I said, you know, there are too many phone calls, there are too many visits by the police, we can't have a dog anymore. And we found some people who wanted a dog. And so everything was happy again. But after a few months, Matt was unhappy, he wanted a dog. And I said, we already had a dog, and you saw what happened. Well, I want another dog. And I said, well, we can't get another dog. Kathy, his mother, supported me and said, you know, Matt, if you want a dog, we'll get a dog. So I laid down some pretty strict rules. Matt was going to have to earn the money to buy the dog, and he was really going to have to take care of the dog. Unlike the first one that everyone promised they were going to take care of, he was really going to take care of that. So he started getting lawn mowing jobs, and all summer long he worked, and he had the money to buy the dog, and we went out, and Trapper was found by Matt. And Trapper became a fixture in our family, and the perseverance that he showed in earning the money and taking care of that dog is very interesting. It leads into the second P, which is patience.